So before I get started with this video, I would like to add a couple of disclaimers. First off, this will contain spoilers for the newest confirmed series and for the Broken Code, and it may also contain spoilers for some of the other arcs that are in the Warrior series. If that's not what you're looking for, I highly suggest that you click off the video. At the same time, this video will also not necessarily be about me going in depth with the information, but rather me giving out my opinion on the newest information. Specifically, the characters that were chosen for this new series and why it surprised me. So if that's also not what you're looking for, I highly suggest that you click off and watch another one of the videos. There have been a lot of other YouTubers that have done similar videos to this, and they explain the information a lot better than I do, so I highly suggest that you go check out some of them as well. So for those who are not aware of this yet, there has been an 8th arc confirmed for Warriors. It will be called Starless Clan. Its first novel will be called River, and with that, there has also been a blurb and a book cover released for River. Besides that, our protagonists have also been confirmed for the series, which will be Sunpaw, Flamepaw, and Frostpaw. This surprises me for multiple reasons, but I'll get to that in a little bit. Besides that, Misty Star is also on the front cover of River, and while she isn't supposed to be one of the protagonists for the series, I do believe that she will play a significant role within at least the first novel of the series. Now, in terms of the protagonists for the series, I do have a couple of opinions about them. First off, I would like to go on to our ThunderClan protagonist, as always, Flamepaw. Now, personally, I'm already kind of interested in him, even if he's currently just a background character. For those who are not aware, okay, first off, this will contain spoilers for Squirrelflight's Hope, so for those who want to skip on this, go on right ahead. But for those who are unaware, Flamepaw is the son of Sparkpelt and Larksong, and for those who are unaware, Larksong technically died on the same day that Flamepaw was born, and the reasoning for this is because supposedly Larksong had some kind of a prey sickness, and unfortunately that was the day that he had to bite the dust. So that was really sad to read about, and also it affected Sparkpelt pretty badly. So I was always kind of curious as to how exactly this affected her kids, or their kids I should say, and whether or not they remember any of this. So personally, I'm kind of interested in reading about Flamepaw's perspective because of that. So I'm really hoping that will be added in, whether it's just as a small comment or really becomes a bit more of his personality. So yeah, that's all I have to add about him. But besides that, I'm just really excited to actually read about him compared to the other ThunderClan point of views that we've had so far. So yeah. Now, in terms of our Shadow Clan perspective, Sunbeam, I'm also kind of interested in her, considering her background is somewhat similar to Shadowsight's in terms of his background before the Broken Code began. For those who are unaware, Sunbeam was actually born outside of Shadow Clan, somewhat similar to Shadowsight, and she was born during Tigerheart's shadow. For those who are unaware, this was because her parents, Berryheart and Sparrowtail, were trying to leave Darktail's group. And at the time, Berryheart was expecting kids, so they actually were born before they got to Shadow Clan. So I just feel like it's kind of similar to what Shadowsight had to go through in terms of when Tigerheart and Delving they temporarily left the clans, and then they ended up returning after the kids were born. So I mean, I don't think it's going to be a repeat of Shadowsight, considering that he's a medicine cat and he had to go through a whole bunch of stuff, so I highly doubt that Sunbeam will go through that, although there is something interesting about her, and Moon Kitty ended up touching upon this. She technically has an older sister, Needletail, and for those who are unaware of who Needletail is, she was a very significant character in A Vision of Shadows. So I feel like that could potentially bring on some interesting stuff with her, and it could potentially bring back Needletail into the storyline, although I can't guarantee anything significant from that. Now, in terms of our River Clan perspective, Frostpaw, I am also pretty interested in reading about her for a couple of reasons. First off, she is technically our very first River Clan perspective, or really for a main series at least. Technically, there have been a couple of novels in terms of novellas and super editions that have also been released in terms of River Clan perspectives, although those are very rare, and they're also not part of the actual main series. In terms of that, technically Stormfur would be the closest that we've ever gotten, but he's only gotten one chapter in the New Prophecy, or a New Prophecy, and he never really has been treated as a main protagonist, so personally I don't count him. So Frostpaw, in my opinion, is technically our first. Besides that, I just feel like she's also kind of in an interesting situation, considering how the Medicine Cat thing will be working out in River Clan. For those who are unaware, In a Place of Stars, which just happened recently, Willowshine passed away in that book because she tried going through the moon pool, and Ashford drowned her in the process when she tried to do that. So I think it was really sad and honestly a bit unnecessary that they had to kill her off like that, but I guess there really is no point in thinking about it because, well, it's not like they're going to be able to bring her back. So now it just feels like Mothwing would be the closest thing that RiverClan would have to a medicine cat, but, well, she's in ShadowClan, so, I mean, I personally think that chances are in A Light in the Mist, which, for those who don't know, that's going to be the 6th book of the Broken Code, I think they're going to make her come back to RiverClan, which personally I don't like the idea of, but I don't think that we're going to really have a choice in this. But if they're going to really think about character development, I think it's going to be kind of interesting for Mothwing because, I mean, they're going to force her back to RiverClan, and then on top of that, there's going to be the grief of her apprentice. So, well, her first one at least. So I think that that's definitely going to put an interesting perspective in there, and I kind of wonder how she will be training Frostpaw through that. But anyways, we will see how that goes, and I'm very excited to actually read about all of these perspectives. So, yeah. So in terms of the choices for the new protagonist for this series, this does surprise me for a couple of reasons. First off, for those who may have not noticed, this is technically the first time in which all protagonists actually are pre-existing characters, and that's only happened on one other occasion, but I'll go through each and every series just so that you guys may kind of understand what I'm talking about. So in Prophecies Begin, Firestar was the protagonist for that series, and technically he didn't exist in any other book beforehand because, well, Into the Wild was the first book. In the new Prophecy, Brambleclaw was a pre-existing character, but technically Squirrelfly and Leafpool weren't. Not in terms of chronological order, but with publishing dates, if that makes any more sense. In Power 3, neither Lionblaze, Jayfeather, or Hollyleaf were pre-existing characters. Continuing on, Omen of the Stars is the only one that technically breaks the chain, as both Dovewing and Ivypool were born in Sunrise, although personally I don't like to consider it as it was during the very last chapter of Sunrise, so they were barely introduced. Continuing on, we can't really say anything about Dawn of the Clans considering that it was supposed to, since in a chronological sense, they're kind of the books that started at the very beginning, so I can't really speak in that sense. Besides that, In a Vision of Shadows, kind of new one actually, but technically Alderheart, Violet Shine, and Twig Branch, none of them were actually pre-existing characters, so that actually follows the chain. And then in the Broken Code, technically yes, Bristlefrost and Shadowside did exist beforehand, but Rootspring didn't. And while we do see that he was born in Squirrelflight's Hope, in terms of publishing dates, that was published in the later part of 2019, while Lost Stars was actually published during the beginning of 2019. In terms of this, Starless Clan, technically all characters have existed beforehand. If you check the Alliance list, you will see that all characters have existed, including Frostpaw, even though technically she was only mentioned once in Lost Stars, although this can actually change later on. So we'll see how that works out. Now, the second reason as to why this actually surprised me is because, well, I actually had a theory in terms of who could potentially become the next protagonist for this series. So, now I would like you guys to keep in mind that I will be explaining this next part, but you guys can take this in with a complete grain of salt. This was just a theory in terms of what this would be, and I honestly don't have a lot of information to back this up either. So, you guys can just take this information with a complete grain of salt, and I'll explain exactly what or why I thought this. So, if anyone remembers Tigerheart Shadow, specifically the scene when Shadowkit, Poundskit, and Lightkit were born, Spire just came along and kind of pointed out at Shadowkit and said that he was going to have the ability to see through shadows. And that was kind of one of the scenes that ended up foreshadowing that Shadowsight was going to become a significant character later on. Now, for those who are unaware, a similar scene like that actually happened within Darkness Within. For those who are unaware, Spotfur is actually expecting Stemleaf's kits. And she didn't really want to raise the kids. She doesn't really want to raise these kids because everything's in chaos. Stemleaf is dead. Stemleaf is probably not in a really good place considering that they're having an entire crisis with their religion. And then there's also the crisis that's going along with ThunderClan political stuff, and just everything around is just crumbling in front of Spotfur. So she really doesn't want to raise the kids, especially under these circumstances. So when she ends up traveling with Bristlefrost, Rootspring, and Needleclaw, and they end up finding the sisters, which they need to do that because of the religion crisis that they have going on. They have a ceremony that they do for Spotfur and her unborn kits because they seem to really respect queens over there, which I can also respect as well. And during that ceremony, they say that Spotfur's kits will be special, and that really caught my attention because that sounded really similar to what they were going for in Tigerheart's Shadow. So I had a theory that Spotfur's kits were actually going to become the next protagonists for the series. On top of that, keep in mind that these kids are probably going to be born and raised in ThunderClan, so that's another thing to keep in mind. And on top of that, Spotfur is currently a very important cat within ThunderClan history, considering that she just led an entire rebellion for the sake of all the clans. So typically, these are just things that usually you find in a lot of ThunderClan protagonists. So I was really thinking that these kids were going to become the next protagonist because of this. But it looks like that's going to be Flamepaw instead. And personally, I'm a lot more excited to read about his perspective than the kids, just because it's a lot less predictable, and also he has more of a personality going for him. So, yeah. So I think that's about it I think that's just about all that I have for today. Thank you guys so much for watching if you've reached all the way to this. Please leave me any suggestions that you guys have in terms of more videos like this. I really need a lot more of them, but I got to read some that you guys left last time, and honestly, I really like your ideas, and I'm probably going to do a few of them. I just need to figure out how exactly I'm going to format them. But yeah, if anyone has any other suggestions, please let me know. Chances are I'll probably do them. But yeah, on top of that, I think that's just about it. Thank you for watching.